Beep to beep beep beep. Morning, afternoon, evening, good night. Yeah, the usual. How are you? Listen, I'm excited today. I'm excited today because A, I get to see my warrior teacher. I keep saying my. And I've got an article for you from a rather wonderful woman that I have lots of time for, called Heather Hain. Right? It's nice to be able to read something from Heather, who is also a member, a co-founder of, I think, called the Dark Horse podcast with Brett Weinstein. If you've not come across them before, they're very interesting. As usual, links are in the doobers for the article. Please become a warrior teacher or become a gesturite and retweet my stuff if you see it, because anyway, you know, the usual. So what Heather is writing about today, she's called The Public Fetish, and it's in naturalselections.bio under Sex and Sexuality, which is part of Substack. Autogynephilia at the Genspect conference. Now, there was some kerfuffle about this, as you know. Now, Phil Illy, says Heather, is an autogynephile. That is, he is a straight man who is attracted to the idea of himself as a woman. He attended the recent Genspect conference in a blue velvet dress and long blue gloves. The outfit, including its blueness, was striking. It was difficult to ignore. Sure enough, it was not ignored. There has been fury, online and off, about his presence at the conference. The Radfems and many others say, absolutely no. No way. A man, and clearly a creep at that, being celebrated in a space that already holds people with deep trauma from exactly this sort of cosplay. Reprehensible. This is damaging to those who are most at risk. Why are we encouraging this public display of fetish? People in the other camp argue Phil Illy knows that he is a man and is in no way confused about this. He is honest and open and not a creep at all. He's written a whole book about autogynephilia. We should be a big tent, welcoming of all, or at least welcoming of those who are self-reflective and who see the same reality that we do. Which is it? Who is right? The night before the conference began, many of us were in the vicinity of the hotel bar, and I saw a man walking around in a dress. I would later learn that this was Phil. I did a double take. I asked the woman sitting next to me, and am I seeing this correctly? She looked, nodded. Yep. I was unnerved. What did I not know? Did this person believe himself to be a woman or not? Why did the answer to that question matter to me? The next night, Phil approached my table, offered me a copy of his book, which I accepted, and we talked for a bit. I came away with some answers and intuitions. No, he does not think he is actually a woman. And no, he does not seem like a creep. None of my hackles were raised. I detected no malice. No glint in the eye, no smirk, outer or inner, that he was having one over on all of us. Of course, I could be wrong about these things, as anyone's intuition can mislead them. One of the despicable truths about gender ideology is that women are being told to stop trusting the very intuitions that we've always relied on. For example, when walking alone, when entering a bathroom or a locker room or a parking garage, when approached by a person we do not know. It is not bigoted to cross the street if you feel a tingle at the base of your skull as you see a man approaching you. It is smart. I have travelled far and wide, often exploring places alone that women are expected not to explore alone, and I've honed my intuition, although I am well aware that I can and do make mistakes. Nothing about Phil alarmed me. Assuming that I'm correct about Phil, that he is not a creep, and that his intention is not to force himself into women's spaces, is that sufficient to land me in the camp of the big tenters? It is not. Okay. Heather's a considered thinker. You know, if you've ever watched the Dark Horse podcast, she's one of the first people I contacted about some of this. In fact, I'd contacted Heather long before this on the subject of toxic femininity. And as well as being one of the most attractive women I've ever seen in my life, I mean, she's got such charisma. She's a very intelligent woman. We had a little back and forth, you know, since then. She then continues to talk about the book. Illy's book is long, nearly 600 pages, plus another nearly 100 pages of end matter, glossary and references. Mostly, I have merely skimmed it. In his book, Illy attempts a careful, scholarly investigation of the condition that he understands himself to have. Again, autogynephilia. I respect him for this, and his hypothesis that AGP is the underlying cause for a larger percentage of people we now see transitioning seems plausible at least for young men. He has taken heat from the trans community for holding this position, but an unstated premise of the book is that what goes on in people's heads is inherently something that the external world must pay heed to. This I do not accept. Illy discusses not just AGP, but what he sees as its match in the opposite sex, autoandrophilia, AAP. AAP is the state of being a straight woman who has turned the object of her attraction inwards and so is attracted to the idea of being a man. This, I believe, is a false symmetry. Just as male and female homosexuality are not identical and typically neither merge from nor manifest in similar ways, so too should we not expect confusion about gender identity to manifest similarly between the sexes. We are all, after all, different. I'm a straight woman who has never thought nor wished that I was a man, but who has been gender non-conforming in many ways throughout my life. Opening in his book to his section on autoandrophilia, therefore, may have been setting myself up for disappointment. On page 127 of Autoheterosexual, Attracted to Being the Other Sex, Illy writes, autoandrophilia enables people to experience mental shifts into a masculine headspace in response to stimuli that reinforce their sense of masculinity or manhood. Initially, autoandrophilic mental shifts tend to be short-lived. They often arise first through cross-dressing, being one of the guys, or imagining being a boy, all of which may lead to feeling confident, strong, or self-assured. The first part, Heather continues, of this sounds like psychobabble to me. The latter part sounds regressive and misogynistic. I feel confident, strong and self-assured. In fact, I am confident, strong and self-assured. You bet. If you've ever seen Heather in action, you'll know what I mean. Hearing that feeling that way means I may be thinking of myself as a man is neither helpful nor empowering. It is the opposite. In that one sentence, everything we need to know exists. That one statement from the book that's in the article, you can read it. It says everything you need to know. Earlier in their book, we are told that men who behave like women, behavioural autogynephilia, can benefit women who share spaces with these men. One man who calls himself a trans femme says, I treat my wife very well because I take care of almost all the housework. He does the housework because he sees himself as behaving like a woman, we are further told. As a child, another trans femme delighted in caring for her baby sister, which eased the burden on her mother. Again, childcare was enjoyable for the boy because by engaging in it, he felt that he was behaving like a female. So, if you are confident, strong and self-assured, you are manifesting manhood. And if you engage in caretaking and domestic work, you are manifesting womanhood. Manly men don't clean. Women aren't confident. Manly men don't parent. Women are weak. This is bollocks. I rather thought that we were over such insipid and restrictive tropes. Restrictive tropes. Clearly, I was wrong. Now that's the first part of what is a very thoughtful article, and I do recommend you getting a cup of coffee or a cup of tea or whatever it may be and taking the time to read it. The sum up is brilliant. The fact that Phil is not himself a creep thus does not render his behaviour harmless. He is breaching a social contract by walking around in hyper-feminine garb, causing people's brains to throw errors, and for women to become hyper-vigilant about what it means and how to react. The indirect effect of a man, even a good man, walking around in stereotypical female dress, in an era when other men who do this expect to be allowed in female-only spaces to be treated as if they are women, are negative. It doesn't matter what he thinks. I suppose that this is too bad for Illy and others like him, that they should be expected to curtail their behaviour because of other bad actors, but it is far worse if he does not curtail his behaviour in public. Far worse for the 50% of the population who are now on high alert at all times, protecting ourselves and our children against the compulsion of a few. That's the sum up. Go read the bit in the middle, because that's where the meat and potatoes are, okay? It's an extraordinary article, and it states it very clearly, and I think in my mind clears up something I wasn't so sure about. That is, men spend their lives in a state of subjugation of themselves, right? Some more than others, okay? But you can't say some men. That's what the part of this is. Some men are okay, right? You can't say that about any human. Some humans are okay. That's how safeguarding works, right? Now, this is not a safeguarding issue because it was adults and they were, at a do and people were wandering around. This is a matter of societal shame and about what society will stand. You cannot be sure that the individual that's practicing this is not doing so for a sexual fetish and getting off on it all. And what Helen is saying is is that it's sad for some blokes that there are men that will do that, which means you can't. Interesting, isn't it? Anyway, looking forward to seeing your thoughts on this. Please do become a warrior teacher, subscribe, become a jesterite, support me on Substack, the usual. And I'll see you later, folks. Have a good day. Bye-bye.